NLP's lie. Your pain is just a state. The quality of your life is dependent on the quality of your state. The Coaching Room, August 2025. Read that again. Not your relationships. Not your health. Not your childhood. Not your income, safety, pain, or reality. Just your state. This is the message being pushed, again, by the Coaching Room and many other NLP-based coaching outfits, that your entire experience of life is determined by how you feel internally, and that if you don't like your life, all you need to do is shift your state. Sounds empowering, doesn't it? Until you realize what it really means. This isn't empowerment, it's gaslighting. I've been gaslit, lied to, manipulated by someone who learned to reframe betrayal as growth. I've lived through depression, suicidal ideation, agoraphobia, not because I didn't manage my state, but because real life fell apart. I was cheated on, and the story became that I was holding her back. I was pushed to the edge, and the narrative was that I chose to suffer. I was devastated, and she said she was simply choosing joy. Coaching taught her how to rationalize harm and call it transformation. And when I cried out, when I fell apart emotionally, the response wasn't concern. It was condescension. That's just a state. You can choose another one. What an efficient way to dismiss pain. What a clever trick to deflect responsibility. What state management actually teaches. In NLP and neurosemantics, the foundations of the Coaching Room's work, emotions aren't seen as responses to lived experiences. They're treated as personal performance settings you can dial up or down. They'll tell you, you're always in a state. You can choose to shift your state. If you're reactive, overwhelmed, or depressed, it's not what happened to you. It's how you're running your neurology. It's a seductive message. It feels like control. But what they won't tell you is that this belief system erases context. It erases trauma. It erases relational damage, systemic inequality, pain, and grief, anything that doesn't fit into their self-contained model of inner mastery. And it lets them off the hook. Because when someone is suffering or hurt by a practitioner's ideology, the answer isn't "we went too far." It's "you didn't manage your state." That's not self-leadership. That's psychological negligence. No qualifications. No ethics. No responsibility. Let's be blunt. These aren't psychologists. These aren't trauma therapists. These aren't professionals trained to treat emotional collapse or support people through genuine psychological pain. They are coaches trained in pattern language, pseudoscientific maps of the mind, loosely based on outdated linguistics and self-help slogans. They're taught how to reframe, how to redirect, how to label everything as feedback or choice, but not how to handle emotional harm. So when someone is dealing with post-betrayal trauma, clinical depression, panic attacks, self-harm thoughts, abuse flashbacks, they're advised to interrupt their pattern, change their submodalities, shift their state, step into a more resourceful frame. It's insulting, and it's dangerous. What happens when this is believed? Let me show you. She trusted the process. She believed in the coaching. I supported someone I loved while she went through this transformation. But here's what actually happened. She reframed the breakdown of our 25-year marriage as a breakthrough. She justified lying as living her truth. She invalidated my pain as resistance, and I was left to clean up the psychological rubble, with real consequences to my mental health. Meanwhile, the coaching machine kept running. No responsibility. No apology. Just more carousel posts and testimonials. Coaching isn't qualified to touch trauma. The state management narrative is an attractive fiction, especially to those selling courses, certifications, and personal development packages. If you are likely living in the self-help world, a bit of Tony Robbins, a bit of positive thinking, you are more likely to be the one sitting in on an NLP course. You are already set up for this new belief system. But for those of us who've been on the receiving end of someone else's coached attachment, the story looks very different. We've seen what happens when NLP-trained individuals reframe away empathy, rationalize harm, and reject responsibility for emotional destruction, all in the name of growth. We don't need another slogan. We need truth. We need ethics. We need boundaries. And above all, we need coaches to stop pretending they're psychologists. Final thought. If your house burns down, you're not failing at state management. If you're suicidal, you don't need a reframe, you need support. If you've been betrayed, the pain isn't a fault in your wiring. And if a coach ever tells you otherwise, run.